I'm Kendra, 28 years old, and I grew up believing success meant following my father's footsteps into banking. Little did anyone know I was secretly building a tech company that would change everything. When my father screamed, "Get out of my house!" after I finally revealed my success, I was devastated. But the very next day, I moved into my $26 million Florida villa, and his reaction was absolutely priceless. Let me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to see how I turned my father's rejection into the ultimate comeback story. I grew up in a modest brick house in a middle-class Chicago neighborhood. My father, Thomas, was the epitome of traditional values, a bank manager who believed in conventional career paths and financial security above all else. He wore the same style of pressed shirts every day and planned his retirement down to the penny. My mother, Diane, was his perfect complement, quiet, supportive, and always deferring to his decisions at the dinner table. "Your father knows best," she would whisper whenever I questioned his authority. My brother Jason was the golden child. 2 years older than me, he followed our father's carefully plotted life plan without question. He studied accounting, joined a respectable firm, and earned approving nods at every family gathering. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became the soundtrack of my teenage years. Even as a kid, I showed signs of being different. At 12, I started a neighborhood dog walking service that quickly grew to 15 clients. When I proudly showed my father the $200 I had saved, he patted my head and said, "Cute hobby, but it's time to focus on real studies now." During high school, while other girls decorated their rooms with boy band posters, mine featured tech entrepreneurs and startup founders. I taught myself to code from free online resources, staying up late after finishing my real homework. My father walked in once while I was coding a simple game and laughed. "Computer games won't pay the bills, Kendra. Banks are always hiring accountants." To please my parents, I enrolled in finance at the state university, but I spent my free time in the computer lab working on app ideas and attending tech meetups. I found a small community of like-minded students who didn't think my dreams were silly. We would talk for hours about changing the world through technology, while I kept a finance textbook visible in my backpack to maintain my cover story. Graduation day should have been triumphant, but it felt like a sentence. My father had already arranged an interview at his bank. "Entry level, but you'll move up fast with my recommendation," he said, straightening my graduation cap. The pride in his eyes made the words stick in my throat. I couldn't tell him I had other plans. That summer, I moved back home and took the bank job. Each morning, I put on the sensible business attire my mother helped me select. Each evening, I listened to my father's advice about climbing the corporate ladder. But late at night, I worked on my real passion, designing a financial app that would make investing accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy clients my father's bank catered to. My double life was exhausting. Sometimes looking at my father's confident smile as he dispensed financial wisdom at dinner, I almost gave up my secret ambitions. What if he was right? What if security and tradition were more important than dreams? But then I would open my laptop, look at my code, and feel a certainty I never felt at the bank. 6 months into my banking career, everything changed because of a spilled coffee. Running late after a night of coding, I bumped into a woman at the local coffee shop. My latte splashed all over her designer blazer, and I frantically dabbed at it with napkins, apologizing profusely. "Stop apologizing and tell me what had you so distracted," she said with unexpected warmth. "You looked like you were solving world hunger in your head." Her name was Alicia Johnston, a tech investor visiting Chicago for a conference. Something made me trust her instantly, perhaps the lack of judgment in her eyes. Before I knew it, I was showing her my app prototype on my phone, explaining my vision for democratizing investment for younger generations. "This is actually good," she said, studying the interface. "Really good. Why are you wearing that bank uniform instead of pitching this to investors?" I confessed my family situation, and Alicia handed me her card. "I know some people in Chicago. Call them. And Kendra, life's too short to live someone else's version of it." That weekend, I crafted a careful lie about a bank training program and met with Alicia's contacts. They were constructively critical, but encouraged me to continue developing the app now named Rapid Wealth. 1 month later, I quit the bank job, telling my family I had been transferred to another branch with different hours. I rented the cheapest apartment I could find using my savings to survive while coding day and night. My tiny studio became command central, laptop whiteboards covering every wall and empty ramen cups everywhere. I lived on caffeine and determination, often forgetting to eat until my stomach growled loud enough to break my concentration. The first investor meeting was a disaster. Too similar to existing products, they said. The second and third weren't much better. By the fourth rejection, I was questioning everything sitting on my apartment floor, surrounded by instant noodle packets, wondering if my father had been right all along. Then I met Marcus Garcia, a venture capitalist known for betting on female entrepreneurs. He didn't just see the app, he saw the vision behind it. Financial freedom shouldn't be gatekept by old men in suits, he said, and I knew he understood. 2 weeks later, he called with the news $2 million in seed funding. I moved Rapid Wealth into a small office space and hired 3 brilliant developers I'd met through tech meetups. We worked 18-hour days, fueled by passion and the fear of failure. Every Sunday, I still attended family dinner wearing department store clothes to maintain my bank employee facade, listening to my brother brag about his promotions while my startup quietly grew. Still at that assistant position, my father would ask, disappointment evident. I would nod and change the subject, the secret success burning inside me. Everything accelerated faster than I could have imagined. Rapid Wealth launched with little fanfare, but college students and young professionals immediately recognized its value. The user interface we had obsessed over paid off. People found it intuitive, engaging, and unlike the stuffy financial tools their parents used. Within 3 months, we had 100,000 active users. By 6 months, we hit 1 million. Our small office couldn't contain us anymore, so we expanded to a full floor. Each morning, I would stand in the elevator surrounded by my growing team and fight the urge to pinch myself. The hardest part wasn't building the company, it was maintaining the deception at home. I drove a used Honda to family gatherings while my company car, a Tesla, stayed hidden in my apartment garage. I complained about fictional bank customers while major financial publications were featuring me as a fintech innovator to watch. The cognitive dissonance was becoming unbearable. My brother Jason noticed my phone once when a business alert came through. "Since when do you follow tech stocks so closely? Stick to your lane, sis." He laughed, never imagining I was running a company now valued at $50 million. My father doubled down whenever entrepreneurship came up in conversation. "For every success story, there are 1,000 failures," he would lecture. "Security is what builds generational wealth." I would nod and pass the potatoes, the irony burning in my throat. Then came the email that changed everything. Tech Global, one of the largest financial technology companies in the world, wanted to discuss acquiring Rapid Wealth. Their initial offer, $200 million. After 2 weeks of intense negotiation with our board, the number rose to $320 million. My personal share would be approximately $150 million. The night after signing the preliminary agreement, I sat alone in my apartment staring at numbers on a screen that didn't seem real. All those years of hiding, doubting, and pushing forward had led to this moment. I made a decision after the deal closed. I would finally tell my family the truth. I wanted to do it right. I researched and found the perfect property, a stunning oceanfront villa in Palm Beach, Florida. Listed at $26 million, it represented everything I had achieved and the life I wanted to build. I made an offer immediately, arranging for the closing to coincide with the company acquisition. As both deals moved forward, I planned a special dinner at my parents' house where I would finally reveal everything. I rehearsed my announcement in the mirror, trying to find words that would make my father understand that I had found success, just not on his terms. The evening of the dinner arrived, along with a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I brought an expensive bottle of champagne, carefully removing the price tag. My mother noticed it immediately. "This looks fancy, honey," "What's the occasion?" she asked, while taking the appetizers out of the oven. "Just thought we deserved something special tonight," I replied, helping her arrange crackers on a serving plate. My hands were shaking slightly. My father and Jason arrived from their traditional pre-dinner golf game, both in high spirits, because Jason had won. The conversation immediately turned to his recent promotion. Senior financial analyst at just 29. My father boasted, clapping my brother on the shoulder. The youngest in his division. "It's not that big a deal, Dad," Jason said with false modesty, clearly enjoying the attention. "Nonsense. We need to celebrate properly," my father insisted, opening the champagne I'd brought with expert precision. As he poured, he asked absently, "How's the bank treating you, Kendra? Still at the downtown branch?" There it was, my opening. I took a deep breath and set down my glass. "Actually, Dad, I don't work at the bank anymore. I haven't for almost 2 years now." The room went silent. My father's champagne glass paused midway to his lips. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice dangerously calm. I explained everything. The app development, quitting the bank, the startup, the funding rounds, the growing user base, and finally the acquisition. As I spoke, my mother's eyes widened with surprise and something that looked like pride. Jason's expression shifted from disbelief to calculation. But my father's face darkened with every word. When I finished by showing them the news of the acquisition on my phone, I expected questions, maybe even congratulations. Instead, my father's face turned alarmingly red. "So you've been lying to us for years," he said flatly. "Living some kind of double life and deceiving your family." "Dad, I built a company that just sold for $320 million, I said, trying to redirect his focus. "I'm financially set for life." "You think I care about that?" he snapped, standing up suddenly. "You could have ruined your reputation. What if it had failed? Tech businesses are unstable, built on nothing but air and electricity. You threw away a solid banking career for a gamble." My mother tried to intervene. "Thomas, listen to what she's accomplished." "Accomplished? She's just like your cousin Rick with his get-rich-quick schemes." He cut her off. At least he had the decency to fail quickly instead of maintaining elaborate lies. The comparison to my cousin, who had indeed attempted several questionable business ventures, felt like a slap across my face. "This isn't a scheme, Dad," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "I built something real that helps people. Why can't you see that—" "What I see is that you betrayed our trust," he shouted, slamming his hand on the table hard enough to make the glasses jump. "Living on ramen in some dingy apartment instead of accepting our help hiding your life from the people who raised you." My entire body was shaking now, tears threatening to spill. "I knew you wouldn't understand or support me. That's why I didn't tell you." His face contorted with anger I'd never seen before. "I don't even know who you are anymore. If you think so little of this family and our values that you'd lie for years, then maybe you don't belong here." "Thomas?" my mother gasped. "No, I mean it," he continued, pointing at the door. "Get out of my house. Go live your tech millionaire fantasy life somewhere else." The room froze in shocked silence. My brother stared at his plate. My mother covered her mouth with her hand. And I stood there, humiliation and grief washing over me in waves. Without another word, I grabbed my purse and walked out, tears flowing freely down my face. As I started my old Honda, I could see my mother's silhouette in the window, but she didn't come out. No one did. I drove aimlessly through Chicago's streets, streetlights blurring through my tears. The GPS kept rerouting as I made random turns with no destination in mind. Eventually, I pulled into the parking lot of an upscale hotel, ironically one I could now easily afford, but would have considered an extravagance just 2 years ago. The front desk clerk looked concerned at my tear-stained face, but maintained professional courtesy. I checked into a suite, paying with a credit card I rarely used around family. Once alone in the room, I finally let go completely. I cried for the little girl who had always wanted her father's approval. I cried for the years of hiding and double lives. I cried for the celebration I should have been having instead of this hollowed-out feeling of rejection. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Are you safe? Please let me know where you are. I replied that I was at a hotel and fine physically at least. She sent back a heart emoji, but nothing else. No defense of me, no promise to talk sense into my father. Just a heart that somehow made me feel even more alone. Around midnight, my phone rang. It was my mother calling in whispers. "Your father is asleep," she explained. "Kendra, I'm so proud of what you've done. I just want you to know that." "Then why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you stop him?" My voice cracked. A long pause. "I should have. I'm sorry." Another pause. "He'll come around. He just needs time." But I was suddenly tired of giving my father time, tired of making myself smaller to fit his vision of who I should be. "I closed on a house in Florida today," I said quietly. "I'm supposed to get the keys tomorrow." "Florida. You're moving." The alarm in her voice was evident. "I think I need to start fresh, Mom." Tonight made that pretty clear. After we hung up, I stood at the window overlooking the Chicago skyline, the city where I'd grown up, started my company, and tonight finally broken with my past. I realized I was at a crossroads. I could keep seeking my father's approval, or I could fully embrace the life I had built for myself. The decision crystallized with surprising clarity. I called my assistant Maria, who had been handling the Florida property arrangements. "Can you make sure everything's ready for tomorrow? I'll be arriving earlier than planned," I said. "Of course. Is everything okay?" She could hear the thickness in my voice. "It will be," I replied, surprising myself with the certainty I felt. I booked a morning flight to Palm Beach and ordered room service, a bottle of champagne and chocolate cake. If no one else would celebrate my success with me, I would toast myself. Each sip and bite felt like reclaiming something that had been taken from me. Morning brought clarity along with the sunrise. I bought a new outfit from the hotel boutique, a white linen dress that felt symbolic somehow. New day, new life, new Kendra. I texted my family that I needed space and would be away for a while. Then I did something I'd been hesitant to do before. I arranged for my new private jet to make its maiden voyage. As the sleek aircraft took off, I watched Chicago shrink beneath me. The city held both my past and the company that had secured my future, but for the first time I was flying toward a life completely of my own making. The Florida sunlight hit differently than Chicago's, more golden, more embracing. As the car turned through the ornate gates of what was now my property, I gasped audibly. Photos hadn't done it justice. The villa was a masterpiece of modern architecture spread across the ocean front, white stone gleaming against the blue backdrop of the Atlantic. "Welcome home, Ms. Walker," said the property manager, a professionally dressed woman named Sophia waiting at the entrance. Behind her stood a small staff: groundskeeper, housekeeper, chef, and security personnel. The previous owners left everything in impeccable condition, Sophia explained as we walked through massive glass doors into a foyer with 20-foot ceilings and an ocean view that stole my breath. 15,000 square feet, 7 bedrooms, 9 bathrooms, home theater, wine cellar, infinity pool, private beach access, and a boat dock. I nodded, trying to absorb the reality that this was mine. We toured room after room of sophisticated luxury: the professional kitchen where the chef would prepare my meals, the master suite, with its panoramic ocean views, the office overlooking the garden where I could build my next venture. "Will your family be joining you soon?" Sophia asked innocently. The question caught me off guard. "No," I said after a pause. "It's just me for now." After the staff showed me the essential functions of the house, they discreetly withdrew to their quarters, leaving me alone in the cavernous living room. I kicked off my shoes and walked barefoot across marble floors to the infinity pool that seemed to merge with the ocean beyond. Dipping my toes in the water, I felt a strange combination of achievement and loneliness. My phone chimed with a message from Marcus, my investor. "Congratulations on the new palace, you've earned every square foot." Attached was a bottle of champagne emoji. I smiled, grateful for someone who understood what today meant. I took a photo of the sunset from my pool deck and posted it to my private Instagram account. I had always been careful to keep my social media presence minimal and unassuming around family, but something inside me had shifted. I captioned it simply, New Beginnings, #Florida Life, and made the account public. That first night in the villa was surreal. I swam in the infinity pool under the stars, ate dinner prepared by my personal chef on the terrace, and tried to fill the enormous space with my presence. The master bedroom alone was larger than my entire Chicago apartment. I fell asleep to the sound of waves crashing on my private beach, a lullaby of success tinged with the ache of family lost. Morning brought another perfect day and a swim in the ocean rather than the pool. As I returned to the house, my phone was buzzing continuously. My Instagram post had gone viral among my professional connections, and word had spread quickly. Then came the call I had been half expecting my brother Jason. "So it's true," he said without preamble. "You really are rich." "Hello to you too, Jason," I replied, toweling off on the terrace. "That house looks insane. Why didn't you tell me about any of this? I thought we were close." His voice held accusation mixed with something new. Respect, perhaps even awe. "Were we the last conversation we had you told me to stick to my lane when I was looking at tech stocks?" Silence on his end. Then, "Look, Dad was out of line last night. He was just shocked. We all were. But you dropped a bomb on us, Kendra. What did you expect?" "Basic congratulations would have been nice," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "Listen, Jason, I need some time. This isn't just about last night. It's about years of being made to feel like my dreams weren't valid." "So when are you coming back to talk this out?" he pressed. "I'm not sure I'm coming back, Jason. This is my home now." After we hung up, I found that a local tech blog had somehow picked up the story of my company acquisition and my move to Florida. By afternoon, it had been picked up by larger outlets, with headlines calling me tech's newest female billionaire, a vast exaggeration of my worth, but media will be media. That evening, my father called. I watched his name flash on my screen but couldn't bring myself to answer. My mother left a voicemail filled with apologies and pleas to call back. I listened twice but didn't return the call. For the first time in my life, I was putting myself first, and it felt both terrifying and necessary. 6 months passed in a blur of new experiences. I established the Walker Foundation for Young Female Entrepreneurs, funding tech education for girls from underprivileged backgrounds. I made new friends in the Palm Beach community, genuine connections based on who I truly was, not who someone expected me to be. Weekly therapy sessions helped me process the family rejection and set healthier boundaries. My therapist, Lisa, helped me understand that my father's reaction came from fear and his own rigid worldview, not from any failing on my part. My father's attempts to contact me continued. Calls, texts, even a letter delivered to my Florida address. My mother sent weekly updates about her life, always caring but never pressuring. My brother oscillated between resentment and attempts to leverage our connection for his own career advancement. After much reflection, I finally answered one of my father's calls on a quiet Sunday morning. His voice sounded older, less certain. "Kendra," he said, as if confirming I was really there. "Hi, Dad." An awkward silence stretched between us before he cleared his throat. "Your mother misses you terribly." "Not, I miss you, but your mother misses you." Some things hadn't changed. "I miss her too," I replied truthfully. "The house you bought, it's quite something. Saw it in the Chicago Tribune business section." He was trying to sound casual, but I could hear the effort it took. "It's home now," I said simply. Another pause. "What you did with that app, it was impressive. Risky, but impressive." Coming from him, this qualified as effusive praise. I felt a traitorous flutter of happiness that I immediately tamped down. "Thank you," I said carefully. "But that doesn't erase what happened." I was surprised. He offered not quite an apology. Finding out my daughter had been living a completely different life than I thought. "Can you understand that?" "I can understand," surprised Dad. "What I can't understand is telling your daughter to get out instead of listening to her." The conversation continued in this vein, him offering partial justifications, me holding my ground. We ended with a fragile truce, but no real resolution. Progress, but just barely. 2 weeks later, my mother visited. I sent the private jet for her, a luxury that made her both uncomfortable and proud. Watching her take in my villa, seeing her eyes widen at each new room and feature, I felt a complex mixture of emotions. Part of me was still the little girl wanting parental approval, while another part recognized I had built this life without it. "It's overwhelming," she admitted as we sat on the beach with wine glasses in hand. "Beautiful, but overwhelming. Are you happy here all alone?" "I'm not alone, Mom," I explained. "I have staff, new friends, my foundation work. I'm building a life that fits me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I should have supported you more. All those years I knew you were special, different from what your father wanted. I was too weak to stand up for you." I took her hand. "You're here now." During her week-long visit, we rebuilt something precious. She helped me decorate rooms that still felt too impersonal, added family photos to shelves, and shared meals where we talked honestly for perhaps the first time. When she left, the house felt more like home. My father's visit came 3 months later. It was awkward and stilted at first, him standing stiffly in my grand entryway, looking simultaneously impressed and disapproving. "Nice place," he offered, hands in his pockets. "Good investment in real estate." Always the banker's perspective. I gave him the tour, but also showed him my foundation offices, introducing him to the young women we were sponsoring through tech education programs. Seeing these ambitious girls who reminded him of me seemed to shift something in his understanding. At dinner on his final night, he made an effort I never expected. "I was wrong about some things, Kendra," he said, studying his plate. "Not about everything. The tech world is still too unstable for my taste. But about you. You saw opportunities I couldn't see." It wasn't the wholehearted acceptance I had once craved, but it was something real, an acknowledgement of my vision and capabilities. We were different people with different values, and that was okay. I didn't need him to fully understand my choices. I just needed him to respect that they were mine to make. 1 year after the night I'd been told to leave my childhood home, I hosted a foundation fundraiser at my villa. My family attended, my mother beaming with pride, my brother networking shamelessly, and my father standing somewhat apart but present nonetheless. During my speech about empowering the next generation of female entrepreneurs, I caught my father watching a young scholarship recipient demonstrating her coding project. He nodded approvingly at her explanation, the same nod he'd once reserved for Jason's accomplishments. It was a small gesture, but represented a monumental shift. Life doesn't always give us the acceptance we hope for from the people we love. Sometimes we have to build our own definition of success and find peace in our choices, even without validation. The greatest freedom comes not from wealth or possessions, but from the courage to write your own story, even when others don't understand the plot. Have you ever had to choose between family expectations and following your own path? Comment below with your experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life journeys of transformation. Share this video with someone who might need encouragement to follow their dreams despite opposition. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the people who don't initially support your vision are the ones who most need to see you succeed.